Hello everyone, my name is Marissa and I'm doing a presentation on stem cell use. So I chose this topic because we did cover this topic a couple weeks ago and I found it really interesting and I just thought, this is a great opportunity to look more into it, see some of its uses, look a little at the controversy and see how it's being used today. So to begin with, what are stem cells? So stem cells are actually special cells that can develop into many different types of cells. But when I say many different types of cells, this ranges anywhere from muscle cells, liver cells, to brain cells. So they can be all types of cells. There are two main types of stem cells, embryonic cells and adult stem cells, and I'll talk a little bit more into those as we move on through the slideshow. So beginning with embryonic stem cells, these come from unused embryos. And initially your reaction may be like, oh my gosh, we're using unused embryos, but these are actually donated through the in vitro fertilization process. So the embryos that are not implanted and not used that would normally be discarded are donated for stem cell research, stem cell therapy, and use. So we're actually using those embryos, we're using embryos that originally would have been discarded. And so these cells are unique because these can actually turn into more than one cell type, which allows for more variation and allows them to be more useful. The second type of stem cell is an adult stem cell. So there's actually two types of adult stem cell. The first comes from fully developed tissues such as the brain, skin, and bone marrow. And there are only small numbers of stem cells in these tissues. So what I mean by that is they can only generate certain types of cells. So if a liver stem cell will be more likely to only produce liver cells. And the second type is an induced pluripotent stem cell. This is actually changed in the lab. They're adult stem cells that were changed in the lab to become more like embryonic stem cells, which allows them to be more variated and can create more different cell types. There's actually some controversy surrounding stem cell use. Not so much about adult stem cells, but rather the embryonic stem cells. There's two sides to this. One side believes that the embryo that is being used for the stem cells is a living human being, so they're very against using it for stem cells because it would be considered killing a human being. However, supporters of stem cell research and use do not believe this. They don't believe that the embryo is a living human being, but it's rather an embryo that was going to be discarded anyways, so we're actually just repurposing it for research and to potentially find cures for diseases that we don't have as well of a cure for. So there's a lot of controversy between these two sides, and as you can see from my little cartoon over here, it's one side's against stem research, one is with it, and that you can save lives, but there's not really an agreement that's come between the two sides. So how are stem cells used? There's many different uses for stem cells, and since they have the ability to turn into various types of cells, scientists believe that they can be useful for treating and understanding diseases. According to the Mayo Clinic, some of these different uses, as I've shown on the slide, are growing new cells to replace damaged tissue, researching genetic defects and the causes of genetic defects in cells, and researching how diseases occur and why these certain cells develop diseases, such as cancer. So some of the uses continuing along include cell-based therapies. So what I mean by cell-based therapies is that if researchers can find a reliable way to direct the differentiation of embryonic stem cells so that if they can direct what path an embryonic stem cell takes, like what cell it's going to develop into, then they might be able to use these cells to treat certain diseases. For example, let's say you're having problems with your liver. If they can direct these embryonic stem cells to produce new liver cells, you may be able to fix your liver just by using your own cells. So medical conditions that could be potentially treated with embryonic stem cells. And some of these include spinal cord injuries, heart disease, Huntington's disease, and those are just a couple of the examples. But there's also current clinical trials happening right now. California's Stem Cell Agency provides a detailed list of disease programs and clinical trials currently underway in stem cell research. A couple of these include injecting modified stem cells directly into the brain after stroke and cultivating stem cells to repair the fragile bones of people with osteoporosis. Another unique thing about stem cells is they can actually be used to test new drugs. So instead of testing drugs in people or on animals, some types of stem cells can be used to test drugs for safety and quality, which means we're not testing on people and we're not testing on animals. So, in conclusion, stem cell research has the potential to have a significant impact on human health. There is some controversy surrounding some of the use of it and how embryonic stem cells are created, but there's so many different ways stem cells can actually be helpful to us, and there's so much more research that can be done and that is in the process of being done, so we can learn how they can help us even more. So here's just some of the sources I used throughout, and that last source listed is actually where I got that controversy photo from. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Let me know if you have any questions.